It may be hard to believe now, but there was a time when Weird Al's career seemed to be in a funk, but it would be a decision by Michael Jackson and alternative rock band Nirvana who helped him resurrect his career. That's what we're going to explore in today's video. Weird Al would end up making a name for himself in the 80s, parodying some of the most popular artists of the day, including pop star Michael Jackson and more alternative artists like Devo, the B-52s, and Talking Heads. But it would be Nirvana's second album, Nevermind, that soon caught his attention in 1991. While Weird Al loved the record, he didn't think anyone would really hear it because Nirvana was relatively unknown at the time. Recalling to Spin magazine, "I was such a fan of the band, I heard Nevermind and I thought, oh, this is really great. I wish it were popular enough for me to do a parody, but that's never going to happen. It was the energy, the attitude. I like the sound of real instruments. I like guitars. I like people screaming." Nearly 5 months after its release, Nevermind would top the Billboard charts, displacing Michael Jackson from the #1 spot. The timing seemed perfect for Weird Al to parody the band, but he struggled to get a hold of Nirvana's management initially. Despite Nirvana's newfound fame and money, at the time frontman Kurt Cobain would admit that he didn't feel like he had made it until Weird Al parodied Smells Like Teen Spirit. Cobain was such a fan of Weird Al that he would write in one of his journal entries, and I quote, "Eric Clapton plays second-rate dusty blues licks. Too much practice is like too much sugar. Weird Al is America's modern pop rock genius. Do your own thing, others own their own thing. P.S. Teen Spirit has an uncanny resemblance to Godzilla by Blue Oyster Cult." One thing that's unique about Weird Al is that he doesn't legally need permission from an artist to spoof or parody their songs, but out of a sign of respect, he always asks the artist for permission prior to recording his parodies. There have been some cases where artists have said no to him, including Paul McCartney, and most famously Prince, who turned him down half a dozen times or so. By the late 80s, Weird Al's career was in a lull. He would identify 1989 to 1991 as being the lowest point in his career. It was during this time he starred in a motion picture, which was a colossal failure, as was the soundtrack, when he told Spin magazine, saying, and I quote, "I had a really nice run through the 80s, and things kind of stopped for a while after the 1989 Weird Al starring film UHF. It was sort of a dark period. The movie tested extremely well. It was Orion Pictures' highest testing movie, so they thought it was going to be a big hit. They were internally pumping me up as their new Woody Allen. This was going to be the start of a franchise, and you can't help but get sucked into that frame of mind. I was thinking, okay, great, I'll be a movie star. And then after the first weekend, I was basically a ghost. No one at Orion wanted to establish eye contact. That was the beginning of 3 years where it was kind of hard for me to recover. I'd failed at the box office. The soundtrack of the movie didn't go well anywhere. It was kind of hard for me to recover." Weird Al for a second thought about parodying another Michael Jackson song. The King of Pop had just released his album Dangerous, and the song Black or White was a huge hit. Weird Al wanted to parody it, with his version being called Snack All Night, but Michael Jackson said no to Weird Al because the song had an important social and political message. Then Nirvana came along and proved to be a blessing for Weird Al. As luck would have it, Nirvana would appear on Saturday Night Live in early 1992, and one of Weird Al's friends was a cast member on the show named Victoria Jackson. Through her help, he was able to get on the phone with Kurt Cobain and ask for permission to parody Smells Like Teen Spirit, which he gave. Weird Al would recall to Spin, he was sweet, and he got it in like 5 seconds and said, "Of course you can do a parody." The famous quote from him was, "Is this going to be a song about food? Because at that point, that's primarily what I was known for." And I said, "Well, no, it's going to be a song about how nobody can understand your lyrics." And he said, "Oh, sure, of course, that's funny." That's one of those phone conversations I wish I'd recorded. I'd love to hear that myself. However, after the parody came out, Weird Al would end up meeting Cobain in person, telling the same publication, "I only met Kurt in person once at a restaurant in LA. He just happened to be eating at an adjoining table with his friends. This was after the parody had come out, so I got to go over and thank him in person. I just profusely thanked him and said, 'Anything I can do for you, let me know.' Kurt extended his hand to me and said, 'Polish my nails.'" The parody would take 3 to 4 days to record, and Weird Al wanted to stay so authentic to the song that they booked the original soundstage where the video was recorded, and even got the same janitor and a few of the cheerleaders who appeared in Nirvana's video. Another fun fact is that Tony Hawk is one of the people appearing in the video as an extra. The resulting parody would be called Smells Like Nirvana, and it would end up being one of Weird Al's biggest hits of his career, peaking at number 35 on the Billboard charts. It would also result in the album that Smells Like Nirvana was found on, Off the Deep End, going platinum. It was following Cobain's death in 1994, whether him and his band should continue to play the song during live shows, but they ultimately decided to do it, with Weird Al telling the audience each night that the song was a somber dedication to Kurt. When it came time to visit Seattle following Kurt's death, Weird Al would look back telling Spin, "The hardest one was doing Seattle because I didn't know if I should be doing that song in Seattle at the time. I didn't know how people would take it. I asked a lot of journalists there, should I do this? Should I not do this? And almost unanimously they said, you should do this. It would be cathartic." And it actually went over extremely well. That does it for today's video, guys. Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. We'll see you again in Rock and Roll True Stories. Take care.